A year after my wife disappeared, I hired a company to repair her old office. I had just arrived at church when the contractor called. "Sir, I need you to see what we found. But don't come alone. Bring your 2 sons." I stood in the parking lot, the phone pressed against my ear, watching families stream past me into the Sunday service. The contractor's voice had that careful flatness people use when they're trying not to panic you. "What did you find?" I asked. "I can't explain it over the phone, but you need to bring both boys. This involves them." "Involves them how?" "Please, Mr. Brennan, just come, and bring them." He hung up. I stood there for a long moment, watching the church doors close. Inside, the organ had started playing. My wife used to sit in the 3rd pew from the front, left side. She'd chosen that spot 20 years ago because it had the best acoustics. Everything she did had a reason. I called my older son first. "Dad? Aren't you at church?" "Vincent, I need you to meet me at the house, at your mother's office. The contractor found something." A pause. "Found what?" "He wouldn't say. He wants both you and Daniel there." Another pause, longer this time. "Why would he want us there?" "I don't know. Can you come?" "Yeah, give me 20 minutes. I called Daniel next. He answered on the first ring, which wasn't like him. "Let me guess," he said. "The contractor called you." My stomach tightened. "He called you too?" "No, but Vincent just texted me, said we need to get to the house." "You're coming?" "On my way." The house was 15 minutes from the church. I'd bought it 32 years ago, when Vincent was still in diapers. My wife had insisted on this neighborhood, these particular 3 acres, this specific floor plan. She'd been pregnant with Daniel at the time, measuring paint swatches against the afternoon light, talking about resale value and school districts. She thought 10 moves ahead in everything. The contractor's van was already in the driveway when I pulled up. Bill Kowalski. He'd done work for us before, back when my wife was still here. He was standing on the front porch, arms crossed, not smoking but looking like he wanted to. "Mr. Brennan," he nodded at me. "Your boys on the way?" "They're coming." "Bill, what's going on?" "Better to show you when everyone's here." "That's not an answer." "No, sir, it's not." Vincent's black Audi pulled in 5 minutes later. He got out slowly, adjusting his tie. He'd come straight from somewhere that required a tie on a Sunday. Probably not church. Vincent hadn't been to church since his mother disappeared. He'd been too busy managing her estate. Daniel arrived 3 minutes after that, driving the Tesla my wife had given him for his 40th birthday. 2 months before she vanished. He'd complained at the time that it was too much, that he couldn't accept it. But he'd kept it. They both walked up to the porch without looking at each other. "Dad." Vincent nodded at me. "Vincent." "Daniel." Daniel nodded at Vincent. "Daniel." This was how they communicated now. Polite, careful, like diplomats from hostile nations. Bill cleared his throat. "Gentlemen, thank you for coming. Mr. Brennan, I'm going to show you something we found in your wife's office. We were removing the built-in shelving on the north wall like you asked. When we pulled the middle unit away from the wall, we found a cavity." "A cavity," Vincent said. "Sealed with drywall, fresh drywall, probably less than 2 years old." "What was in it?" I asked. Bill looked at Vincent, then Daniel, then back at me. "Personal effects, electronics, documents, things that looked like they were deliberately hidden." Daniel's jaw tightened. "What kind of documents?" "The kind that suggest someone knew they were going to need evidence. The kind that suggests someone was planning for a very specific situation." "You opened the cavity," Vincent said. "We did. We had to. The shelving couldn't come down without exposing it." "And you looked inside?" "I did." "That's our mother's private office," Daniel said. His voice had gotten quieter, which with Daniel meant he was getting angry. "You had no right to go through her things. Your father hired me to renovate the space. I found something that looked deliberately concealed. I called him immediately. And I called both of you because the first document I saw had both your names on it. Vincent went very still. What kind of document? A letter, handwritten, addressed to your father, dated 14 months ago, 2 weeks before your mother disappeared. The air on that porch changed. I felt it shift, the way pressure changes before a storm. Vincent and Daniel were looking at Bill, but they were seeing something else. Calculating something. Where is it? I asked. Inside. I haven't touched anything since I called you. But Mr. Brennan, I need to tell you something before we go in. Tell me. I've worked in construction for 30 years. I've found hidden things before. Drugs, cash, guns, documents people don't want found. This is different. Different how? This was hidden by someone who wanted it found eventually, by someone who knew exactly when and how it would be discovered. The drywall work is professional, but it's meant to be temporary. The cavity is positioned exactly where we'd have to cut to remove the shelving. Whoever did this knew that if you ever renovated this room, we'd find it. Our mother wouldn't hide things from Dad, Daniel said. I didn't say she hid it from him. I said she hid it for him. We went inside. The office was exactly as my wife had left it. I'd asked Bill to renovate because I couldn't stand looking at it anymore. This frozen museum to her absence. Her books still lined the shelves. Her reading glasses still sat on the desk. Her coffee mug still bore the lipstick print from the last morning she'd been here. The morning she'd kissed me goodbye and driven away and never come back. The shelving unit on the north wall was pulled away from the drywall, leaning at an angle. Behind it, a section of wall had been cut away, exposing a cavity about 2 feet wide and 3 feet tall. Inside the cavity was a banker's box, sealed with packing tape. Bill had set up a work light aimed at the opening. The box sat there in the light, casting shadows. That's your mother's handwriting, Vincent said, pointing to the top of the box. Someone had written in black marker, for Michael Brennan. Open when you're ready to know. My name. In her handwriting. My hands were shaking. I stepped forward and pulled the box out of the cavity. It was heavier than I expected. I set it on her desk and peeled the tape away. Inside was another layer of protection, a sealed plastic bag containing several items, a phone, an older iPhone, the kind she'd used 3 years ago, the kind she'd claimed to have lost, a leather journal, moleskin, black, the kind she used for everything important, a stack of documents, paper clipped together, a thumb drive, a handwritten letter, folded in thirds, my name on the outside. I picked up the letter. Vincent and Daniel moved closer, one on each side of me. Bill had stepped back, giving us space, but still watching. I unfolded it. Her handwriting, dated March 15th, 14 months ago, 2 weeks before she disappeared. Michael, it began, if you're reading this, then I'm gone, and you've finally decided to change this room. It took you longer than I thought it would. You never liked letting go of anything. My throat closed. By now, the boys have probably convinced you I was unstable, that I was paranoid, that my worries were symptoms of something breaking inside me. They're very good at rewriting history. I taught them that. Vincent sucked in a breath. I'm writing this because I need you to understand 3 things. First, I didn't leave you. Second, I didn't have a choice. Third, they made that choice for me. Daniel's hand was on the desk now, gripping the edge. His knuckles were white. I know what you're thinking. I know you don't want to believe your sons could do what I'm about to tell you they did. But Michael, I need you to trust me one more time. I need you to trust that I wouldn't do this, wouldn't leave this evidence, wouldn't force you to see this unless it was absolutely necessary. The letter went on for 3 more pages, single-spaced, her precise handwriting, not a word wasted. She laid it out like a legal brief, the pressure, the suggestions, the concerned conversations about her mental state. the subtle isolation from friends, the gentle insistence that she needed help, needed medication, needed to let them manage certain aspects of her life. The way Vincent had started questioning her decisions about the family trust, the way Daniel had started suggesting she wasn't capable of handling her own finances, the way both their wives had started making comments about her memory, her moods, her confusion. The pattern had started 18 months before she disappeared. They didn't want to hurt me, the letter said. They wanted to control me. And when I wouldn't be controlled, when I started pushing back, when I made it clear I wasn't going to let them declare me incompetent or sign over power of attorney or let them manage the estate while I was still alive, they made it impossible for me to stay. I looked up. Vincent and Daniel were both staring at the letter, but neither was reaching for it. "This isn't true," Vincent said. His voice was steady, calm, the voice he used in boardrooms. "Dad, whatever she wrote, whatever she thought, she wasn't well. We tried to help her. She wouldn't listen." "Where is she?" I asked. "We don't know. You know we don't know." "The letter says you do. The letter is from a woman who was experiencing a mental health crisis. You can't take it at face value." I set the letter down and picked up the phone. It powered on. The battery was still charged somehow, or maybe Bill had plugged it in. The home screen was a photo of my wife and me, taken 20 years ago, on vacation in Vermont. We looked young, happy. There were no apps on the phone except for voice memos and photos. I opened voice memos. 47 recordings. The first one was dated a year before she disappeared. I pressed play. Her voice filled the room. March 10th. Daniel came by this morning. He wanted to talk about the estate planning. Again. He said I should consider setting up a trust that would let the boys manage things if I became incapacitated. He kept using the word when, not if. When you become incapacitated. When you can't make decisions anymore, when you need help. She paused. I asked him why he thought I'd become incapacitated. He said everyone does eventually. He said he was just thinking ahead, being practical, taking care of me. Another pause. Then he said something interesting. He said, "Mom, we all know you've been forgetful lately. We all know you've been under stress. We just want to make sure you're protected." Her voice had changed on that last sentence, gone flat, clinical. That's when I knew. That's when I understood what they were doing. The recording ended. I played the second one. March 15th. Vincent's wife came by today, Margaret. She brought coffee. We sat in the kitchen and she asked me how I was doing. I said I was fine. She said Vincent was worried about me. She said they both were. She said they'd noticed I'd been making mistakes lately, small things, forgetting appointments, misplacing my keys, getting confused about dates. My wife's voice was still calm, still controlled. I asked her for examples. She gave me 3. Each one was something I knew I hadn't done, but she described them so confidently, with such concern, that for a moment I wondered if I had done them and just didn't remember. She laughed. It was not a happy sound. That's how it works, isn't it? You start questioning your own memory because other people are so certain you're wrong. The recording ended. I looked at Vincent. He was staring at the phone. "You want to hear more?" I asked. "Dad, please. You have to understand. We were trying to help her." "Help her what?" "She was declining. We could see it. You couldn't, because you were with her every day. But we could see the changes." "What changes?" "Memory problems, confusion, mood swings. She needed help." "Did she need help, or did you need control?" Vincent's face hardened. "That's not fair." "Neither is this." I held up the phone. 47 recordings, documentation of every conversation you had with her, every suggestion, every implication that she wasn't competent, every time you tried to convince her, and me and everyone else, that she was losing her mind. We weren't trying to convince anyone of anything. We were responding to what we were seeing. You were creating what you were seeing. That's insane. Is it? Because she predicted you'd say that. It's in the letter. She predicted every single thing you'd say when I found this. Daniel had backed away from the desk. He was standing near the door now, hands in his pockets. Dad, he said quietly. We loved Mom. We still love her. Whatever you think we did, whatever she wrote, it came from a place of fear and confusion. She wasn't well. We were trying to help. That's all we ever tried to do. Then where is she? Silence. If you were just trying to help, if she wasn't well, if everything you're saying is true, then where is she? Why hasn't anyone found her? Why didn't she leave a note? Why didn't she tell anyone where she was going? More silence. Unless, I said slowly, she did tell someone. Unless she did leave evidence. Unless she planned this very carefully because she knew you'd do exactly what you're doing right now. I picked up the journal. Dad, don't. Vincent stepped forward. Please, don't read that. Not right now. Let's all go home. Let's think about this. Let's talk to someone. A therapist. A lawyer. Someone who can help us process this. Why don't you want me to read it? Because it's going to hurt you. Because whatever she wrote, it's going to be her version of events, filtered through her fears and her illness, and it's going to make you hate us. Is that what you want? Is that what she wanted? I opened the journal. The first page was a single sentence, written in red ink. This is a map. Follow it carefully. The second page was an index. Dates, topics, page numbers. The third page was the start of the documentation. January 12th, it began. Vincent called me this morning to ask about the house. He wanted to know if I'd considered putting it in a trust. I said no. He said I should think about it. I asked why. He said for tax purposes. I said I'd already handled the estate planning. He said maybe I should review it with him. I said no. The entry went on for 2 pages. Every detail. Every word. Every subtle shift in his tone. The next entry was 3 days later. Daniel this time. Same topic. Different approach. The entry after that was Vincent's wife. Then Daniel's wife. Then both sons together. The pattern was clear. They were coordinating, testing different strategies, applying pressure from different angles. My wife had documented all of it. Page after page, week after week, month after month. February 8th. They've started telling other people I'm forgetful. Margaret mentioned it to Susan at book club. Daniel mentioned it to Father Tom. Vincent mentioned it to Dr. Hayward. They're building a narrative. March 1st. Vincent suggested I see a neurologist. He said it was just a checkup. He'd already made the appointment. I canceled it. He looked hurt. Said he was only trying to help. March 20th. They've started excluding me from family decisions. Vincent didn't tell me about his daughter's college visit. Daniel didn't tell me about his son's surgery until after it was over. When I asked why they hadn't told me, they looked at each other. That look said everything. I flipped through the pages. The journal was maybe 100 pages long, every page filled with her precise handwriting. Near the end, the entries changed, became more analytical, less emotional. April 3rd, I've identified the pattern. This isn't random. This isn't concern. This is a deliberate campaign to establish incompetence. They want me declared unable to manage my affairs. They want control of the trust. They want to make decisions without my input. And they're using my own family, my own reputation, my own relationships to build the case against me. The next entry was even colder. April 10th. I've decided to leave, not because they're right, not because I'm incapable, but because staying means fighting them in court, fighting them in public, fighting them in front of Michael. And I won't do that to him. I won't make him choose. So I'm going to make the choice for him. My hands were shaking. April 15th. I've made arrangements. Money in accounts they don't know about. A place to stay. A new identity. I'll disappear completely. Let them have what they think they want. Let them manage the estate. Let them make the decisions. But I'm leaving evidence, because someday Michael will want answers. And when he does, he'll renovate this office. He'll tear down these shelves. He'll find what I left him, and then he'll know. The last entry was dated April 28th, the day before she disappeared. If you're reading this, my love, then I'm gone and you've finally found the truth. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you directly. I'm sorry I had to leave. But I couldn't fight them and protect you at the same time. So I chose to protect you. Now you have a choice. You can accept their version of events. Let them keep believing they won. Or you can finish what I started. The evidence is here. The recordings. The documents. The pattern. It's all here. What you do with it is up to you. But Michael, please understand. This isn't about revenge. This is about truth. This is about making sure they know they didn't break me. They made me leave, but they didn't break me. And they won't break you either. Not if you don't let them. I closed the journal. The room was silent, except for the hum of Bill's work light. Vincent and Daniel were both watching me. We should go, Daniel said. We should all go home. Process this. Talk to someone. I looked at him. Really looked at him. My younger son. The one who'd always been quieter than Vincent. More careful. More strategic. He looked like a stranger. Get out, I said. Dad, get out of my house. Both of you. You can't believe this, Vincent said. You can't believe we do what she's accusing us of. She's not accusing. She's documenting. She's lying. Then prove it. Show me where she's wrong. Show me one recording that's fake. Show me one entry that's inaccurate. Show me anything that contradicts what she wrote. Neither of them moved. You can't, I said, because it's all true. Every word, every recording, every entry. You did this. You pushed her out. You wanted control, and you were willing to destroy her reputation, her relationships, her peace of mind, to get it. We wanted to help, Vincent said again. But his voice had changed. The boardroom confidence was gone. Now he just sounded tired. You wanted her money. You wanted her out of the way, and you were willing to make me believe she was crazy to get it. That's not. Get out. They left. I stood in my wife's office, surrounded by the evidence of her intelligence and her pain, and I understood that everything I thought I knew about the last 2 years was a lie. She hadn't lost her mind. She hadn't abandoned me. She'd escaped, and she'd left me a weapon. Before we continue, hit the hype button, subscribe, and like the video to help the channel grow. Tell us which city you are from in the comments. We'd love to get to know our audience better. Bill Kowalski stayed after my sons left. He didn't say anything, just started cleaning up his tools, giving me space to breathe. I stood at my wife's desk, staring at the contents of that box, trying to reorganize my understanding of reality. Mr. Brennan, Bill finally said, you want me to come back another day? No, keep working, tear it all down. You sure? Every shelf, every cabinet, everything she built in this room. I want it gone. He nodded. What about the box? I'll take it. I carried the box to my bedroom and locked the door. Then I sat on the bed and went through everything systematically. The thumb drive contained scanned documents, bank statements showing withdrawals I'd never noticed, small amounts, taken over months, 500 here, 1,000 there, never enough to trigger alerts, but added together, they came to nearly $40,000. My wife had been building an escape fund. There were also scanned legal documents, copies of our estate planning, the trust Vincent had been so concerned about. I read through it carefully. The language was clear. My wife and I had equal control. Neither of us could make changes without the other's consent. Vincent couldn't touch it without both of us signing off, unless he could prove one of us was incompetent. I set the documents aside and picked up the phone again, scrolled through the recordings. There were dozens I hadn't listened to yet. I picked one at random, dated September, 7 months before she disappeared. September 18th. Had lunch with Margaret today. She asked if I was still seeing Dr. Hayward. I said yes. She said she was glad. She said it was important to have someone to talk to. Then she asked if I'd told him about the memory problems. I said, "What memory problems?" She looked surprised. Said Vincent had mentioned I was having trouble remembering conversations. I said Vincent was wrong. She got very quiet. Then she said, "Elizabeth, we're all here to support you, but you have to let us help you." I asked what she meant. She said, "You know what I mean." My wife's voice changed, got harder. That's when I understood this wasn't just my sons. Their wives were involved too. This was coordinated, planned. They divided up the work. Vincent handled the legal pressure. Daniel handled the emotional manipulation. Margaret handled the social narrative. And Daniel's wife, Claire, handled the family side, talking to Michael, preparing him to accept that I was declining. I stopped the recording. Claire. I'd forgotten about Claire. Daniel had married her 6 years ago. She was younger than him by almost 10 years. Smart. Charming. A pediatric nurse who always knew exactly what to say to put people at ease. She'd been the one who'd sat with me after my wife disappeared, who'd held my hand, who'd told me it wasn't my fault, who'd helped me understand that sometimes people just broke down, just walked away, and there was nothing anyone could have done to stop it. She'd been so convincing. I played another recording. October 2nd. Claire came by this morning, brought coffee, same as Margaret. She wanted to talk about Michael, said she was worried about him, said he was under so much stress taking care of me. I asked what she meant. She said, "Elizabeth, we all know you've been struggling. We all know Michael's been covering for you. He won't admit it, but we can see how tired he is, how worried he is. We just want to help." My wife laughed, but it was brittle. She's good. She made it sound like compassion, like she cared about Michael, about me, about our marriage. But what she was really doing was planting the idea that Michael was burdened by me, that I was too much for him to handle alone, that he needed help, their help. The recording ended. I sat there for a long time, thinking about the past year, about how my sons had been so supportive after their mother disappeared, how they'd helped me with the police reports, the missing person investigation, the financial logistics, how they'd taken over so many responsibilities, made so many decisions, handled so many details, how they'd encouraged me to see a therapist, how they'd suggested I might want to consider letting them manage some of the estate matters, just temporarily, just until I was feeling stronger, how they'd made it sound like they were helping. I'd almost agreed. I'd been so tired, so confused, so hollowed out by grief that I'd almost signed the papers Vincent brought over, almost let them take control. But something had stopped me, some instinct, buried deep, that told me once I gave them control, I'd never get it back. Now I knew that instinct had been my wife. Some part of her still protecting me, even after she was gone. I spent the rest of Sunday going through everything in the box, every recording, every document, every page of the journal. By the time I finished, it was nearly midnight, and I understood exactly what had happened. My sons had decided their mother was an obstacle, not because she was incompetent, not because she was sick, but because she wouldn't let them have what they wanted: control of the family money, control of the decisions, control of the legacy. And when she wouldn't cooperate, when she wouldn't step aside gracefully, when she made it clear she wasn't going anywhere, they'd started building a case, systematically, carefully, using her own family against her, using social pressure, medical terminology, concern trolling, and gaslighting to make everyone believe she was losing her mind, including me. They'd almost succeeded, but she'd been smarter. She'd seen it coming. She'd documented everything. And then she'd left. Not because they'd broken her, but because she'd refused to let them destroy her publicly. She'd walked away on her own terms, and she'd left me the evidence to finish what she'd started. I didn't sleep that night. Monday morning, I called Vincent. He answered immediately. "Dad, how are you? I need to talk to you and Daniel, in person." "Of course, when?" "Today, lunch, the house." A pause. "Dad, maybe we should meet somewhere neutral. A restaurant, somewhere public." "The house, Vincent. Noon. Both of you." Dad. I hung up. Then I called Daniel. Same conversation. Same resistance. Same result. At 11:30 I made sandwiches, ham and Swiss on rye. The same lunch my wife used to make when the boys came over. They'd always complained it was too simple, that we should order something, that they didn't have time for homemade food. She'd made it anyway. Vincent arrived first. He came in without knocking, which irritated me, but I didn't say anything. He looked tired. His tie was loose. He had coffee from somewhere, one of those expensive chains. Dad. He set the coffee down. Before Daniel gets here, I want to say something. I'm listening. I know you're angry. I know what you read yesterday shocked you, but I need you to understand that Mom wasn't well. She believed things that weren't true. She saw conspiracies that didn't exist. And yes, we were trying to help her, and yes, she interpreted that as manipulation, but it wasn't. We loved her. We were scared for her. You done? Dad, are you done? He closed his mouth. The DA's office assigned an investigator named Laura Chen. She called me the following Monday. Mr. Brennan, I've reviewed the complaint you filed. I'd like to meet with you to discuss the evidence in more detail. We met at her office downtown, small, functional, walls covered with file folders and legal pads. She was maybe 40, sharp eyes, no-nonsense handshake. Mr. Brennan, I'm going to be direct with you. This is a complicated case. What you're alleging is serious, fraud, self-dealing, breach of fiduciary duty, but proving it is going to be challenging. Your sons will have explanations. They'll have lawyers. They'll fight every step of the way. So before we proceed, I need to know if you're prepared for that. I am. Good. Walk me through everything. Start from the beginning. I spent 3 hours telling her the story, showing her documents, playing recordings, explaining the timeline. She took notes, asked questions, pushed back on assumptions. These recordings, she said, they're your wife describing conversations. But we don't have the actual conversations recorded, just her account of them. She documented them immediately after they happened. But it's still her interpretation, her memory, her perspective. Defense attorneys will argue that she misremembered, misunderstood, mischaracterized what was said. She was a lawyer. She knew how to document evidence. She was also, according to your sons, experiencing mental health issues. They'll bring in experts who will say that people experiencing paranoia often create detailed but inaccurate documentation. Then how do we prove she was accurate? We need independent corroboration. We need the bank records, the investment documents, the ownership records. We need to show that her documentation matches the actual financial transactions. If we can prove that what she wrote about the money matches what actually happened, then the credibility of her other documentation increases. She spent the next hour going through the financial records, comparing my wife's notes to the actual transaction logs, checking dates, verifying amounts. This is good, she said finally. Her documentation of the financial transactions is accurate. Every withdrawal she noted actually occurred. Every transfer she described actually happened. Every amount she recorded matches the bank records. That helps establish her credibility. So, you'll prosecute? I'll investigate. That's different from prosecuting. I need to interview your sons. I need to get their version of events. I need to review all the trust documents. I need to talk to the bank. I need to understand the full scope of what happened. And then, I'll make a recommendation to the DA about whether to file charges. How long will that take? Weeks, maybe months. White-collar investigations are slow. We have to be thorough. We have to be certain. Because if we file charges and then can't prove them, your sons walk away and we've accomplished nothing except wasting everyone's time. I left her office feeling both hopeful and frustrated. Hopeful because someone was finally taking this seriously. Frustrated because the process was going to be slow, and I was tired of being slow. I was tired of being patient. I was tired of letting my sons control the narrative. That week, I did something my wife would have done. I started talking. Not to reporters, not to lawyers, not to official channels, to people. I went to my wife's book club, showed up unannounced at their monthly meeting, stood in front of 12 women who'd known Elizabeth for years. "I need to tell you something," I said, "about what happened to Elizabeth, about why she left." They listened. I showed them excerpts from the journal, played portions of the recordings, explained the pattern, the pressure, the lies, the systematic destruction of her reputation. Some of them cried, some of them got angry. All of them wanted to know why my sons had done this. Money, I said. Control. They wanted access to the family trust without her interference, and when she wouldn't cooperate, they made it impossible for her to stay. "That's horrible," one woman said. "It's worse than horrible," another said. "It's evil." Word spread. Within days, people were talking about what I'd revealed, about what my sons had done, about the evidence I had. Vincent called me Tuesday night. "What are you doing? What the hell are you doing?" "Telling people the truth. You're spreading lies. You're showing people Mom's paranoid journals and acting like they're facts. They are facts, documented facts, backed by evidence. You're destroying us, Dad. People are asking us about this. People are questioning us. People are treating us like criminals. Maybe that's because you acted like criminals. We didn't do anything wrong. You stole $60,000 and invested it in Daniel's company without disclosure. That's not theft. That's an investment decision that didn't work out. It's self-dealing. It's fraud. And the DA agrees with me. The DA hasn't filed charges. Not yet. Not ever. Because there's no case. Because what you're alleging isn't provable. But Dad, what you're doing right now, this campaign of spreading Mom's documentation to anyone who'll listen, that's not justice. That's revenge. And it's going to backfire. How? Because people are going to see through this. They're going to realize you're a grieving widower who's been manipulated by his wife's mental illness into believing conspiracy theories about his own children. And they're going to pity you. And that pity is going to turn to contempt when they realize how much damage you've done to your family based on nothing but paranoid documentation. Then you have nothing to worry about. Dad. I hung up. The next day, Margaret showed up at my house. She didn't knock, just walked in, found me in the living room. "Michael, we need to talk." "I don't think we do." "Yes, we do. What you're doing to Vincent, to Daniel, to our families, it has to stop." "Why?" "Because you're hurting innocent people. You're hurting my children, Vincent's children, Daniel's children. They're hearing rumors. They're hearing accusations. They're asking questions we can't answer without making you look vindictive and unstable. Tell them the truth. The truth is that their grandmother was sick and their grandfather can't accept it. The truth is that their fathers drove their grandmother away and now they're trying to cover it up." Margaret's face hardened. "Michael, I came here to give you a chance. One chance. To stop this. To withdraw the complaint. To stop showing people Elizabeth's journals. To let this die before it destroys everyone. And if I don't? Then we will destroy you. We will hire investigators. We will find everyone you've talked to. We will threaten them with lawsuits if they repeat anything you've told them. We will bring in medical experts to testify that Elizabeth was experiencing paranoid delusions. We will subpoena her medical records. We will present evidence of her mental decline that you've chosen to ignore." "She's gone. That's the same thing." "No, it's not." Margaret stepped closer. "Michael, I'm going to say this once. Stop. Stop talking to people. Stop showing them the journals. Stop pursuing the complaint. Stop destroying Vincent and Daniel, or we will make you regret it. Get out of my house. Michael, get out." She left. I sat in my living room and realized something. They were scared. Really scared. Not because they thought they'd be prosecuted. Not because they thought the DA would file charges. They were scared because I was succeeding in changing the narrative. For a year, they'd controlled what people thought about Elizabeth's disappearance. They'd controlled what people believed about her mental state. They'd controlled the story. Now I was taking that control away. I was showing people the evidence. I was letting them see the documentation. I was letting them decide for themselves what had happened. And people were starting to believe me. That was what terrified them. Not legal consequences, social consequences, the loss of reputation, the loss of standing, the loss of community respect. That mattered more to Vincent and Margaret than any criminal charges. So I leaned into it. I went to the church, found Father Tom in his office. Father, I know you don't want to get involved. I know you think this should stay private. But I'm going to give you a choice. You can let me present evidence at a church meeting. Let people see what happened. Let them make their own decisions. Or you can stay silent and let my sons keep controlling the narrative. Which is it? He looked at me for a long moment. What do you want to present? The truth. Elizabeth's documentation. The recordings. The financial evidence. The pattern. All of it. And what do you expect people to do with that information? I expect them to understand what my sons did. I expect them to see through the lies. I expect them to hold my sons accountable. Accountable how? However they choose. Father Tom sighed. Michael, I'll give you 5 minutes at the next council meeting. 5 minutes to present your evidence. And then Vincent and Daniel will get 5 minutes to respond. And the council will decide whether this is something the church should be involved in. Fair? Fair. The council meeting was Thursday night. 16 people in a conference room. Church leaders, longtime members, people who'd known my family for years. I presented my case, showed the documents, played recordings, walked through the timeline. 5 minutes wasn't enough. I went over by 3 minutes. Nobody stopped me. When I finished, Father Tom looked at Vincent. Your turn. Vincent stood. He didn't have documents. He didn't have evidence. He just had his voice. My brother and I loved our mother. We still love her. When she started having memory problems, when she started getting confused, we tried to help. We suggested doctors. We suggested support. We tried to manage family finances when she became unable to do so effectively. She interpreted our help as manipulation. She created documentation to support that interpretation. And now my father is using that documentation to destroy us. But here's what you need to understand. My mother was sick. She wasn't documenting reality. She was documenting her fears, her paranoia, her delusions. And my father, in his grief, can't see that. He wants to believe we did something wrong because it's easier than accepting that she was ill. But the truth is, we did everything we could to help her. And she left anyway. And now we're being punished for trying to help. Some people were nodding. Not everyone. But some. Father Tom looked at the council. Does anyone have questions? One woman raised her hand. Susan. She'd been in Elizabeth's book club. Vincent, can you explain the unauthorized transactions? The $60,000. Vincent's face didn't change. Those were authorized investment decisions, discretionary movements allowed under the trust terms. Were they disclosed to both trustees? They were part of ongoing management strategies I'd been executing for years with my mother's knowledge. But were they specifically disclosed? The trust allows for discretionary management. That's not an answer. Vincent looked at her. I made investment decisions in the best interest of the family. Some worked out, some didn't. That's the nature of investing. Did Elizabeth know you were making those decisions? She knew I was managing the accounts. Did she approve those specific transactions? A pause. I don't recall discussing every individual transaction with her. So she didn't approve them. She didn't disapprove them. Susan looked at me. Michael, do you have documentation showing Elizabeth disapproved? I pulled out the journal entry, the one from March 30th. Read it aloud. Checked the investment accounts today. Vincent made transactions I didn't authorize, small amounts, moved between accounts, but unauthorized. Susan nodded. That sounds like disapproval to me. The council debated for 20 minutes. Some sided with Vincent. Some sided with me. Most seemed unsure. Finally, Father Tom spoke. This is too complex for us to resolve. This is a legal matter, a family matter. But I think the church community deserves to know there are serious questions about what happened. Michael, you're welcome to share your evidence with anyone who wants to see it. Vincent, you're welcome to present your counter-narrative, and people can decide for themselves what to believe. It wasn't the vindication I wanted, but it was something. People were listening. People were questioning. People were starting to see through my son's lies, and that was enough to keep going.